There's a golden rule with inside the British monarchy, and it's all about, even if you're part of a family member, you have to learn as and when you can ask certain questions, particularly start a conversation. And as someone who's met a lot of senior members of the British monarchy, it's fascinating as to how this has been upheld. You can't just barge in and say, excuse me, ma'am, did you see X on television last night, or that sort of stuff. The conversation has to be instigated. And as I said, even if you're a family member, really, the private dinner or something like that, whether it's at Balmoral or something, if Her Majesty the Queen was there, then, she led the conversation. And naturally, that's called respect for someone of that level. Apparently, this didn't really apply to the former royal known as Meghan Markle. Now, as you know, I truly believe that Meghan and Harry brought untold stress in the latter part of the life of our wonderful monarch, Queen Elizabeth. She tried her very best. And when you now look at some of the inner documents, and you can see that she really did want to try and protect them both from, well, particularly Harry, I'm sure, from making a huge mistake. Well, he clearly wanted to go down his own path. And finally, of course, she gave him her blessing. He couldn't get over the fact that he was not given what he wanted, which was the half in, half out option. And of course, the removal of his titles and the army associations. He really was fizzing over with that. But of course, things had already gone, well, precariously badly for Meghan and Her Majesty the Queen previously. And this is all down to, let me explain how these things come around. It's fascinating how you find them out because, of course, Meghan and Harry had to backlash a lot of alleged bullying claims, which are still around now. And Her Majesty the Queen, as we know, made these things very private because she didn't really want this to be the end legacy for Prince Harry, suddenly having these things attached to his name. She was actually being kind. But of course, both of them allegedly wanted this to go public. Now, there was a very famous trip with Meghan and the Queen on this. As ever, let me explain. Good morning to everybody, or good evening, good night, whatever. If you're going to bed, sleep well, whatever you're doing. As you know, I do worry. Yeah, so you're sleeping well. Are things better? Well, I don't know about you. Somebody said this a while back to me and I thought, oh gosh, this is so true. I'm as tired as when I get up as when I went to bed. And the only thing you want first thing in the morning, this is a sign of age, isn't it? Cup of tea, yeah. Cup of tea, and then you feel you can come round a little bit. I know probably there's a lot of coffee lovers out there who don't like tea, but you know what I mean? All of that thing, you think, oh, then I could just go back to bed. Yeah, happily. I know, it's only because I'm so hard working. I know, this is the thing, you see. I have things to do, pounds to side, pot to riddle and all that sort of stuff, Funny, isn't it? Now, let me explain this particular story because this has come, as I say, from an excellent source that was in the group, shall we say, that were working alongside Harry and Meghan when the alleged bullying claims started. The horrific things that they went through, leaving some staff shaken in tears and couldn't cope with the demands of this brand new Duchess. You see, when they went to Chester, do you remember when Her Majesty the Queen and Meghan went to Chester? This was seen as a big endorsement, something that Catherine hadn't done originally. And so consequently, there were doors being opened, welcoming things, all of that sort of stuff. Now, on the outside, it seemed to be going quite well, although I did think that Meghan's attire and personal appearance left a lot to be desired. But Her Majesty the Queen at points seemingly tried her very best to get on with a former cable TV actress. But according to a source on board, things turned pretty frosty pretty quickly because during conversation, as I say, you don't instigate it, it gets instigated. Apparently Meghan said, an American now in the royal family. I hope I can do you proud, or something along those lines. And then proceeded to ask exactly what were Her Majesty's thoughts on the other infamous American, none other than the Duchess of Windsor, Wallis Simpson. Yes. Now, as ever, we have to say allegedly, but this is from a wonderful source. Now, where it gets interesting is, as I say, it's not the sort of thing you would bring up anyway. It's a little bit, distasteful, isn't it, to say the least. But apparently, naturally, Her Majesty the Queen was quite taken back and said, that's all in the past. And, let's look to a brighter future or something along those lines, And apparently Meghan persisted and it got quite chilly quite fast. Now, first and foremost, you could say, well, she's just being crass and had no idea. Maybe she was interested in Her Majesty's thoughts. Maybe she felt they were getting on splendidly on that train ride. And so now, as any other time, was a great time to ask the question. Either way, apparently behind the scenes, Her Majesty the Queen was very concerned about, shall we say, the lack of communication skills with Meghan and what she might ask at the most inappropriate moments. And for that, apparently Her Majesty the Queen's guard went up even further. Interesting, isn't it? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.